Alright, so as I promised yesterday or last night, when I started reading chapter 6, I said I was going to go ahead and do the full chapter. This is Rare Photos, by the way. If y'all don't know that, you should know that obviously by now. Since y'all subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. We've been reading through Child Bride, which is the novel from, well, biography, The Untold Story of Priscilla Presley, or Boyu Presley. She certainly wasn't a child bride, that's for sure. But this states a lot of different things that are very opposite of what Priscilla Presley is always. They try to impress upon her fans and Elvis fans that she was first off not an Elvis fan, that she was a chance meeting at a party, that she kept herself virginal until the wedding night. This book is very much opposite of that. So, chapter 6, Secrets Revealed. I did start reading this last night, but I'm going to go ahead and start it for the benefit of those that didn't watch the one last night. And keep an eye out. I'm going to have a playlist here soon, a new podcast. It's going to be Priscilla Presley, Child Bride. So y'all can actually go back and read all the different chapters. All right, chapter 6, Secrets Revealed. The apparent existence of two Priscillas became more evident as Priscilla Boyu entered junior high in 1957. She was still outwardly demure, with the same cat-like inscrutability of facade her boyfriend Mike Edwards would later refer to as the mask, because it is so adeptly hid what was going on. But just below the surface lurked the naughty Priscilla. She'd asked me to go to the movies with her, recalled Taylor Keene, and then ditched me at the drive-in to meet the high school boys. It was all Rooney all over again. Priscilla and Pam, especially Priscilla, attracted older boys. Some of the freshmen and sophomore boys thought she was the cutest little trick that ever walked and talked, recalled Christine Laws. Soldiers on the base, grown men oogled Priscilla at 12 and a half. We used to ride the bus, remembered Pam. Go to the root beer stand and to the PX. The soldiers all looked at her. The magnet was Priscilla's dainty doll-like features. It was more like her face than anything else, agreed Cal White, who dated Priscilla in Austin. She had the prettiest features I've ever seen in my life. Even the boys' mothers marveled at Priscilla. Her eyes were outstanding, Charlie Clement's mother, Mary, remembers. The irises had a dark ring around them. Though she didn't put on airs, as her friend Evangeline put it, Priscilla was obsessed with her appearance. A 7th grade teacher recalled Priscilla opening her mirrored compact in class more often than her textbook. She and Pam handled the attention of their older admirers with aplomb. They acted like they were 20, Taylor Keene remembered. They were so much more sophisticated. By the time in Priscilla's childhood, the Boyus remained in the same city for 3 consecutive years, giving their daughter's life a semblance of permission. So for the time, not by the time. Yet Priscilla herself was not stable. She was intensely competitive with her best friend, had become quite aggressive around boys, and was developing a finely honed ability to get what she wanted by manipulating others. As one close Texas friend put it, you like her, you can enjoy her company, but you can't feel 100% sure of Priscilla. That's just part of knowing her, and you just have to accept it. She was kind of like a little honeypot, said Mary Clements, who lived across the street, describing Priscilla at 13, the birthday she celebrated on her last day of 7th grade. She liked older boys, and she'd sit in the yard and watch while they played football on her front lawn, hoping to attract them and succeeding. Overall, though, Priscilla was a popular girl in the popular crowd, a cheerleader who was great at the new dance craze, the twist, and friendly to all. Until that summer when everything changed. It began like any other summer. It began like any other summer evening at the Boyus. Priscilla was babysitting for Dawn and Michelle, then 6 and 3, while Paul and Ann attended a party. Bored, she wandered into her parents' bedroom while her little brother and sister were asleep and began snooping through the closet, mulling through things. Her eyes fell on an old trunk buried in the back. Priscilla found herself drawn to it, strangely compelled to see what was inside, and as I'm opening it, she recalled, I had this unbelievable feeling. Inside, folded neatly on top, was the American flag, the type presented to widows of servicemen. I have a song called Three-Cornered Flag. If you just Google Three-Cornered Flag and the Sins Country, you'll see the music video and hear me singing it. It's about a soldier who lost his life and family's impact on there. And the impact on the family. So I get that right there. So Priscilla's heart raced, and I kept thinking I shouldn't be doing this. It was too private. But I kept exploring it. Uh, and I kept wanting to go on, but then something was saying, don't go any further. And I kept going further and further. Under the flag, she found a cachet of carefully preserved yellowing love letters addressed to Rooney, which was her mom's. Her mom's nickname as a girl, from someone named Jimmy. And beside them were her mother's passionate replies. So I guess she would have gotten all the letters back from Jimmy when Jimmy passed away. So interesting. Mesmerized, Priscilla reached inside the trunk for more. On the bottom was a sea of pictures. Photographs she had never seen before of herself as a baby, along with photos of herself alone and with her mother. She found a photograph of Anne beside a dark, handsome stranger as baby Priscilla lay in her arms. On the back, in her mother's handwriting, were the words, Mommy, Daddy, Priscilla. A chill ran down Priscilla's spine as she studied the picture more closely. The face, for some reason, I feel like I'm reading this page over and over again, but that's just maybe me being tired from not getting enough sleep last night. So let's go back here. A chill ran down Priscilla's spine as she studied the picture more closely. The face of the stranger in the photo was her own. She had stumbled on her own personal Pandora's box. And I kept finding more pictures and finding certificates, she recalled decades later. A birth certificate, baptismal records, finding my life, in front of me. That was different from what I knew. Priscilla sat in the front of the trunk, unable to move, cognizant that in her hand was the solution to the riddle of her childhood, that she was face to face with the secret. She was not who she thought she was. It was both her greatest fantasy and her deepest, darkest fear. First, you go into denial that it's somebody else. And then you go into shock that you've been betrayed. Someone has lied to you. You have so many different emotions that peak. I was in hysterics. Priscilla telephoned her mother at the party, begging her to come home because I needed an explanation. I needed somebody to tell me the truth. What was I discovering? Anne Iverson Wagner Beaulieu raced home to her daughter alone. She did not tell Paul Beaulieu she was leaving the party or where she was going. After years of denial, the call may have been almost a relief. Also, to that point of it, I doubt that a jealous guy like Paul would have let her keep all those pictures and letters. So she must have had it hidden well. So Anne arrived at the house to find Priscilla half crazed. She calmed her daughter down and then told her the truth about the past. She had been married to a handsome pilot named James Wagner, who died in a plane crash, and he was Priscilla's real father. And she said that he was wonderful, recalled Priscilla. He loved me. He was coming home to see me, and that I was his life and her life, and that she met my father, Paul Beaulieu, a few years later and married him, and that he was my father. He adopted me. Well, that's very manipulative right there. As her mother was talking, an image suddenly flashed in Priscilla's head, the vision of her mother on stage, one of the recurring images that had tormented her since she was 5 or 6. And I started realizing, oh my God, that was the party I went to. I remember I was in my grandmother's lap, and I remember seeing my mother. To me, it was like on a stage, but it was in the church. It was a Catholic church, a very big Catholic church. Everything was so big. My mind went right to that picture of the church, and all those flashbacks from when I was 3 started to make sense. It was very bizarre, Priscilla later acknowledged, that the seeming delusions that had confused her since early childhood began to crystallize. And it made sense to me why we had lived with my grandmother then, that there was no man in my life, that was why my grandmother took care of me. All the pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit now. She understood finally where her unearthly beauty had come from. Her unearthly beauty, oh yeah. I'll tell you what, my real father, I look exactly like him. The unearthly beauty. I gotta love that. I know y'all love that. That she said she had unearthly beauty. Priscilla would later I'm having trouble reading here. Priscilla would later say that discovering the truth about her identity from the hidden trunk at the age of 13 was a devastating blow. I'd agree there. In the hierarchy of family secrets devised by John Bradshaw, concealing a child's real parent is the second most dangerous, just below incest. For Priscilla, the discovery of the lie was almost worse than the lie itself. Her mother, the person she trusted most, had betrayed her, deceived her, and she was not who Priscilla had thought she was. Who did that make Priscilla? Anne tried to console her daughter, telling her that she had been haunted by the secret all these years, that she had wanted to tell her beautiful daughter the truth, but that she'd been afraid. The critical word was fear. Fear of upsetting the apple cart, fear of upsetting Paul. The big fear was my father, Priscilla admitted. I don't think my father ever really accepted the fact He really looked at me as his daughter, and now to have my real father come up, it was very important to my mother protecting him, Paul, protecting his feelings, his sensitivity. Well, that's not very good parenting right there. Tell you what. Anne Boyu still feared the consequences of revealing the secret. The fear was that anything like this would maybe separate us, so let's just keep it the way it is. Even after Jimmy's existence was out in the open, Anne barely dared to speak of her beloved first husband to her own daughter. To his own daughter. Okay, yeah, same thing. Priscilla was provided with a few details of the father Anne had hidden from her for 10 years. Priscilla would later explain that Anne doesn't want to really do anything that she thinks may sway me from my adopted father. Why was Anne so protective of Paul Boyu? Well, the purpose of family secrets, according to John Bradshaw, is to preserve the status quo. Excuse me. Was Anne hiding something else, some more dangerous family secret? I tend to think that there might have been some abuse between Paul and Priscilla. I mean, if she acted the way that she acted in Texas, and then perhaps with Curry, usually that signifies some sort of, that's what I've at least seen and studied. Now, I don't know if we're going in that direction, but the fear, and then the fear of Paul, and then some of the people saying that the babysitter that wouldn't go back because Paul was hitting on her. Makes me think that he had a thing, perhaps, and maybe a thing for his unnatural daughter. That's just me. That's just an opinion. Not stating any facts, not making any accusations. I got to make that clear since this is YouTube. All right. So was Anne hiding something else, some more dangerous family secret? Her distraught reaction suggested a possibility. She pleaded with Priscilla as they both cried beside the trunk to keep Jimmy Wagner their secret, never to speak of her real father again, especially to Paul Boyu. It was a side of her mother that Priscilla had never seen before. She sensed Anne's desperation. She still felt betrayed. Priscilla realized that she had a crucial decision to make. She could either allow the truth to surface and accept the consequences, or protect her mother and herself by perpetuating a lie. Any child who finds out that it's not your real father and that your mother was married to someone else, it's a very devastating impact that one has to deal with, she acknowledged years later. And then how do you resolve that? How do you resolve that? Where do you fit in, and how do you make something of it? Or do you just let it go? And I decided to let it go because my father, my stepfather, but I thought he was my father, I could never hurt him. So the decision was, let's not ever discuss this. It will never come out. The truth of Priscilla's identity became, as Priscilla put it, a secret between my mother and myself. The subject of his very existence, the real father, became a forbidden topic. It was a formative moment of Priscilla Boyu's young life. She had shifted from being the victim of secrets and lies to a co-conspirator. At her mother's knee, she was learning that secrets and lies are acceptable, that the truth can be dangerous. Like her mother, her maternal grandparents, and her adoptive father, she was learning to act, pretend, and keep secrets. This was a family tradition. She put away the trunk that contained the mysteries of her childhood, and she and her mother never talked about it again. Priscilla still had no idea she had paternal grandparents in Pennsylvania who were mourning her 10-year absence from their lives. She couldn't know that her grandfather Wagner would die a few months later, at 56 of a broken heart, his widow believed, at the loss of a son and his only grandchild. Catherine Wagner had adopted a fantastic attitude towards Anne and Priscilla's disappearance, but Harold didn't look at it that way, she asserted. He thought it was meanness or something. It was definitely meanness. Though all of this, Jimmy's mother harbored no animosity whatsoever towards Anne. I used to think if I could only know where they are, I wouldn't hurt them. Or I wouldn't hurt them. There's no anger in my heart. I just wanted to know. For Priscilla, all that remained of the life-altering discovery of the trunk was a gold locket Jimmy had given Anne, which Anne presented to Priscilla as a memento. Priscilla wore it around her neck thereafter. Hidden inside the locket was a tiny photograph of her real father, dark and handsome in his pilot's uniform. Knowing nothing about him, Priscilla fantasized that her long-lost father died a great war hero. In times of emotional pain and loneliness, she said, he would become my guardian angel. For a brief time, she wondered whether the discovery of her real father was the event she had been intuiting since she was 5 or 6. But the premonition of something big coming into her life recurred. Priscilla decided there was something else waiting her. That July, according to Caroline Hine, she and Priscilla went to see King Creole, Elvis Presley's latest movie, and as they were leaving the cinema, they caught a glimpse of the back of a dark-haired young man. According to the theater manager, it was Elvis Presley. He was in the Army then and was stationed in Fort Hood and hadn't seen the movie in a theater yet, recalled Carol M. The manager told us Elvis had asked if he could come in after the lights were out and sit in the back so no one would see him. The story may or may not be apocryphal, but one thing is certain, Priscilla, Beaulieu, and Elvis Presley were circling ever closer to each other. Isn't that interesting? Not for the good either, except for Lisa. If you think about it, you know, not for the good, in my opinion. And I think yours too. But let me know what you think about it. This is Rare Elvis Photos. Thanks so much. Share the video around, like it, hit all notifications, become a member if you can hit that join button. Thanks so much.